morning, traders. I am Emily Bonney, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Tuesday, September 9th. The NASDAQ is coming off a record win yesterday as the broader markets all ended in the green. During regular trading, the NASDAQ added 98 points, or about 0.5%, and at 21,798 points. The S&P 500 picked up 13 points, or about 0.5%. The Dow gained 114 points, or about 0.25%. Bill, let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Yes, good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. We're higher by 10 to 1%. That's not bad. It's fine. It's where we've been almost all morning long. I mean, the markets are really awaiting this payroll revisions data. And it's going to be a big revision. I mean, I'm seeing estimates out there that are all over the board, but they're getting, the estimates are coming in bigger. I mean, they were saying we're going to have a downward revision of like 500,000 jobs, 470,000 to 500,000. Well, now I'm seeing upwards of 1 million. So yeah, I mean, the payroll report is going to be negative. Now, I don't think it's going to change, what the Fed is going to do, because the Fed is still going to be doing a 25 basis point rate cut next week when they meet. Is the expectations. The odds of a 50% rate cut are really slim, so I don't see that happening. And you still have inflation data to worry about, and you got 2 inflation reports this week. So yeah, I don't expect that to change anything. But the White House is said to be preparing a report that's going to be highly critical of the BLS data gathering functions. Interesting. Big event for today, Apple's product launch. This is the key highlight for today. The event starts at 1 p.m. Eastern time. They're going to talk about new iPhones, Apple Watches, AirPods, things like that. The street's asking for a foldable iPhone. They need to deliver that sometime. Everyone else has one. We're waiting for Apple to do it, because that would be a big change in the visionary of Apple. But we'll hear from Apple executives. We'll see what they have to say. Big merger, Teck Resources and Anglo American. They're merging today. They announced a merger today. Oh, Salesforce CEO. He's going to be presenting today at the Goldman Sachs conference. He's going to be talking at 4:25 p.m. 4:25 p.m. Salesforce CRM CEO. Executive from Citibank and JP Morgan, they're going to be presenting today at the Barclays Financial Conference. That's something to watch for. On the earnings front, CASY, ticker CASY, Charlie Apple, Sam Yellow, lower after its earnings announcement. After the bell today, you got earnings announcements from GameStop, Synopsys, and Oracle, ORCL. So, those are some things to keep an eye on. And then we're turning our attention over to Europe, and we're watching what's going on in Europe this morning. And you look at the DAX, and the DAX is weakening this morning. It's currently down 0.58% or 137 points. There's some concerns about slowing industrial activity, cautious sentiment due to the French political situation. But then you got the FTSE. The FTSE's up 0.23%. Remember, mining stocks are gaining. We got that copper merger in Teck Resources. So, I'm not surprised to see the FTSE trading higher. And in France, the France is actually up by about 0.2%, or 15 points. Trading is cautious. I mean, the market's trying to balance, the various factors, against, the political situation. But France is higher. So, yeah, you can call European markets higher. There is an ECB meeting that starts tomorrow. Now, the announcement isn't until Thursday, but the ECB meeting starts tomorrow. Something to remember. And then we're turning our attention over to Asia last night. And Asia was, it was mixed. I'm going to call it mixed to higher. But, the Nikkei did fall. The Nikkei fell 0.42%, primarily due to profit taking. You had a strengthening yen, which, it dampens the appetite for Japanese stocks. There was profit taking, and so, it was down, but there was no real big negative factor that caused the Nikkei to slide. And then you have the Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong, which jumped 304 points or 1.19%. And, they were driven by gains in tech, financials, with also momentum, seeing momentum where it says, some healthcare stocks and property shares. I mean, they were, the market was up good. Shanghai in China was lower. It was down about 0.5%. There's some regulatory concerns. There's some profit taking in the high flying tech sectors. There's concern about slowing export growth, but it wasn't horrible. It wasn't horrible. Then we'll turn our attention over to oil, and you know what? With oil, we are showing oil is trading higher by about 0.8%. It was up a full percentage point, fell down to 0.6. Now we're trading in the middle. We're up about 0.8%. It's being driven by supply tightening concerns. Why? Because there are some expectations of possible new sanctions on Russian oil. But today, after the bell, you get the API data coming out. That's something to keep an eye on. The API data, American Petroleum Institute stockpile estimates, something to keep an eye on. But that's what I have for you in terms of morning market update report, Emily.
Bill, on this Tuesday, we have some, major headline-making events today. You did mention that economic data, the payrolls revision due out today. Of course, you also mentioned that Apple product launch event, amongst other things. And we're going to get into more of the details throughout the show. Before we get to some more economic events and corporate headlines, let's turn to earnings. Bill, give us a rundown of what's going on there.
Got to start off with Corn Ferry, ticker KFY. Corn Ferry beat by 7 cents, and they did it on higher revenue. That stock's up 5.52%. CASY General Stores, they beat by 74 cents. They did it on higher revenue. But you want to know something? Stock's weakening. It's down 1.76% this morning. So, a mixed bag in terms of earnings. But after the bell today, we got Synopsys, ticker SNPS, Sam Nancy Paul Sam. Their EPS is $3.84. Expected move is 5.68%. Then you have Oracle. That's the big one. That's the one people are going to be watching. Ticker ORCL, Oscar Richard Charlie Larry. Their EPS is $1.47. Expected move is 9.27%. Remember, that was our stock of the day on Friday, and it's been up every day since. I'm always cautious on Oracle going into earnings because anything can happen with that stock. It doesn't, they can come deliver a strong beat and still the stock sells off. And when you're up a few days in a row, I get a little cautious here. I'm taking profits in Oracle, that's for sure, or RCL. But that's what I have for you in terms of earnings announcement, Emily.
Bill, Oracle up, you're right. That was your call, a few days ago in this run up to earnings. So you've already gotten your win there. Again, cautious on that one. There's also a little caution in the air around economic events today, and including that BLS employment data revision. So let's get there. But what is going on in terms of the day's economic events?
The calendar is light today. The real highlight is something that we normally don't get, and that's the BLS employment revision data, and that's coming out at 10 a.m. I mean, the report's going to include updated employment data, for the prior months. I mean, we're talking, it goes between April 24 to March of 25. And yeah, you could have anywhere from 500,000 to 1 million jobs, falling off that report, which would really be ugly. Remember, it happened to Joe Biden last year when when they did the revision. So don't be surprised when the big revision hits when this report comes out today at 10 a.m. But that's the key economic report for today, Emily.
And Bill, probably nothing much will surprise you because you're prepared with all of this information, and you're also prepared to catch that data as it comes out using your NewsWare. On a day like today, having your NewsWare set up to gather that revision is going to be important. And even though that is the main highlight, there are other highlights that you pointed to. You're following things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, and catalyst calls, looking at your stocks grouped together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks. So Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
I'm looking at my Dow stocks. I got 17 lower, 12 higher, one unchanged. Interesting. I'm looking at my FANG stocks, and I got to tell you, with the FANG stocks, we are mostly showing some positive activity, with the exception of Apple, which has this big product announcement today. That is trading, a little softer this morning, down about 0.3%. You're looking at the news behind the tape, and I got to talk about Apple. Typically this event is this Apple event is a sell the news type of event. But the option data remains positive heading into the event. I mean, you get 2.2 calls to every one put. We'll see. Foldable iPhone. That's really what the street's looking for. Amazon, this is Amazon and Google. A judge rejected the proposed $1.5 billion settlement in the Anthropic class action lawsuit. Remember, this one's being, two of the big investors in this company are Google and Amazon. Meta Platforms, ticker META, they're alleged to have suppressed research on child safety. Doesn't surprise me. Netflix CEO Greg Peters presented at the Goldman Sachs conference yesterday, talking about the company's 2025 business strategies. You look at Netflix this morning, the stock's up about 10th of 1%. Talking Dow Jones 30 stocks, we got to talk Boeing, ticker BA. I mean, they just, WestJet announced an order for 60 Boeing planes. They're ordering a bunch of 737 and some 787-9 Dreamliners. So nice for Boeing. Walmart's presenting today at the Goldman Sachs conference at 2:30 p.m. In terms of merger news, Teck Resources and TECK and Anglo American, they're merging to create one of the top 5 global copper producers. One to watch. In terms of guidance news, Corn Ferry, ticker KFY, Kilo Frank Yellow, they see Q2 adjusted EPS $1.23 to $1.33. Street estimates $1.27, right in the middle. Nice. AT&T, ticker T, they reaffirmed their 2025 guidance and capital returns ahead of their presentation at the Goldman conference. That's nice. In terms of shareholders meetings today, we got Nike, ticker NKE. They're hosting a shareholders meeting today. It starts at 12 noon. In terms of catalysts today, I mean, one story that came out that I think is interesting is Target, TGT, Tom Grace Tom. They have this deal with Taylor Swift, a musician. Apparently, her album is going to be released at midnight on October 3rd. And Target has got some exclusive CDs. I didn't know people still bought CDs, but they're going to be selling those CDs. And apparently, the last time this happened, people were lined up out the door at Target to get their hands on these CDs. And Target's going to be playing this up because they're going to be keeping their stores open until midnight, which is the day that the album drops. And, they'll be selling 3 exclusive CDs. So you want Taylor Swift music, you got to go to Target to get it. And they're going to be open late on October 3rd, really trying to push the Taylor Swift album. And, it's good for the store because, people will keep shopping there as long as they're open. I mean, Target, good, nice move with Taylor Swift. But that's what I have for you in terms of news hitting the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. We've now made it to that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. A number of catalysts today, a bunch of factors ahead of the opening bell. You're going to make a call. So what is your pick of the day today?
Yeah, this, today's tough. I mean, there's not a whole lot of earnings, but I do like Chewy. Ticker CHWY, Charlie Henry, William Yellow. I mean, listen, earnings are out tomorrow morning. EPS is 33 cents, and the expected move is 9.90%. Look at yesterday's call volume. 33,895 versus put volume of 21,638. That's positive. Open interest 128K to 110K, still positive. And the brokers do like the stock. They are, raising price targets there. But for me, listen, the stock's trading 41.70 to 41.80. I want to get in under 41.50. I'm really saying 41.35. But I mean, then you have that the employment revision data, which could really be a shock to the markets when that data comes out. But that's my pick of the day. Chewy, ticker CHWY, Charlie Henry, William Yellow, Emily.
Chewy it is. We'll follow that one along with you leading into earnings. And coming up, we will do a recap on yesterday's pick of the day, which was also leading into earnings. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
We're going to talk United Healthcare. The United Healthcare expects most MA members in 4-star or higher plans. Shares are up 4.5% this morning on this news. Interesting. Broadridge, ticker BR, they're acquiring retirement planning technology provider iJoin. B. Riley, RILY, they hired BDO USA for their 2025 audit. I actually think that's positive because there's so much ugliness going on around the stock that I like to see that they hired a real auditing firm. So I think that kind of gives me a little confidence if they're willing to do that. That means that they feel they got their financials in check. Eli Lilly, ticker LLY, they're launching Tune Lab, an AI-driven drug discovery platform. Ford, ticker F, they're recalling 1.5 million vehicles over faulty rear view cameras. PSO, Paul Sam Oscar Pearson's becoming the exclusive provider of Salesforce certification examinations. Novartis to acquire TRML, Tom, Richard, Mary, Larry for $48 per share. Bank of America expects investment banking fees to increase 10 to 15% in the third quarter from a year earlier. The FAA said on Monday that the agency had not made any decision on whether to lift the 38 planes per month of the 737 MAX production cap that's been in place since early 2024. Dell said on Monday after the bell that their chief financial officer is going to resign effective September 9th. She's been there for 30 years. They'll hire a new guy. There was no reason for it. She was just, she's been there 30 years. She's done. That's all I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we get to trading on this Tuesday, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was SailPoint. They did release earnings this morning. They reported a Q2 adjusted EPS of 7 cents. That was ahead of consensus estimates of 4 cents. They reported Q2 revenue of $264 million, well ahead of the consensus of $243.48 million. They see a Q3 adjusted EPS of 5 cents to 6 cents, which was in line with consensus estimates. They did raise their full year 2026 adjusted EPS view, and that was in line, maybe even slightly above consensus estimates. The stock was up pretty big this morning ahead of that earnings report. It's seeing some weakness after, even though the report was fairly solid. But Bill, did you get a solid win here? How did your call work out?
You can't answer this. I mean, you look at what happened with SailPoint, and it was positive. I mean, the stock opened up at $22.33. And I said, hey, that's a little high for me. I was talking about $21.75. But then it fell down to $21.64, 11 cents away from my entry price. That's okay. And then it rallied all the way up to $22.50. And then, it closed at $22.39. And then in the aftermarket, it hit $22.90. I'm done. And then this morning I saw it hit $24.33 before the earnings report came out. Yeah, I'm already out. I didn't care, but the 1% was there, whether you made it, whether you got it, from my entry point or the opening price, it was there on both both hits. So you take those gains of 1% when you see them, because anything can happen on the earnings, and this is an example. The stock's trading a little lower now, but I still like it. SailPoint delivered a solid report. But the gain was yesterday, and that's why we were playing it yesterday. So SailPoint, SAIL, winner, Emily.
A winner and staying disciplined there with taking those gains when you see it makes it another win. And we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Chewy pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.